Come on! That's what we want. That's what we like. Fantastic stuff at the end of the game. It took time. I'm not gonna beat around the bush. I'm not gonna paint it up to be something pretty that it wasn't. But we got it done in the end, and that is what matters. And there are some encouraging signs that we're going to talk about. We're going to react to. We're going to get your thoughts in the chat box. Members, if you haven't already, dip into the emoji section and enjoy your present for that win. Hello, welcome to the Goodness Talk. Back again with you guys for another show, for another episode of our Raw Reaction series. Oh, yes. So close. The streak nearly finished. The streak was nearly done. Oh, man. I nearly thought I'd ruined it. I nearly thought the Hugh Izzy TGT streak was over, but it's not. And the 4 wins in a row carries on. Absolutely fantastic stuff. Members, let's get those Arsenal flying fishes, those TG fishes in the chat. Yes, I mean, people that are tuning in and thinking, what the hell is going on? Check the live chat. Members have access to the TGT flying fish emoji now, which has become a thing that needed to happen. So enjoy that. Absolutely spam the chat. Fill it with fish. Absolute legends. Oh, dearie me. Loving life right now. I actually want to see the chat. I can't see the chat because the stupid StreamYard thing means I can't see emojis unless I actually go on to the channel of myself, which is really irritating. But I want to see all the fish fill in the channel chat. Unbelievable. Looking at myself there. Strange. But I want to see that chat box absolutely filled to the brim with the fantastic. Yes, lads. Loving that. Brilliant stuff. It works. It works. Right, let's get down to brass tacks. Let's talk about the game. Let's talk about what ultimately went down today, which was it was a really crap game. That's the only way I can describe it. Prior to the last 15 minutes, it was a terrible match. Terrible match today. Really bad. Really just, honestly, I find it hard to describe, really, ultimately, what I'm laughing because everyone in the chat's like, what the hell is going on in the chat box? It's so funny. Oh, dearie me, what are these emojis? Unbelievable scenes. Yeah, anyway, it was a really bad game up until that point. Let's go through the team. Let's see what you're saying in regards to team selection, team reaction. I'm a little bit dazed, to be honest. I'm in a little bit of a diz, just kind of reacting to what I witnessed, and a lot of relief coming out from that win. Willian, man of the match for sure, says Daniel Robert. I'm not so sure about that, Dan. You know, I think I'm sensing a little bit of sarcasm, just a little tad, a little sprinkling of sarcasm there. Glenn Cook says, interesting how the first half wasn't bad, but a lot of players lacked match sharpness, and once things weren't going their way, some started hiding and playing safe. I agree with you, mate. You're absolutely spot on, fella. You're absolutely spot on. Thomas Lear says, strength in depth is a big issue right now. We had to rely on our A squad players to win this for us. I'm happy we won, but the first half was unforgivable. It was really bad. Like, so many dead players on the pitch. Willian was dreadful. So bad. Gave the ball away time after time. Willock was dreadful. Willock is just, I just don't really know what he gives us. I don't know what Willock is. I'm really struggling to know what Willock was. Cedric, bad. I didn't really think Cedric was good at all. I might be completely just skewed into not liking Cedric, but I just really bad. The only player in the first half of any note that could really hold the head up, again, Kieran Tierney was fantastic. Kieran Tierney was the energy that we desperately needed. But do you know what? Do you know who actually was one of the most important changes that Arteta made tactically? And I'm hoping that a lot of people noticed this. But Granit Xhaka coming onto the pitch was a tactical stroke of It's not genius because you know what you get from Granit Xhaka, but it was the tactical change needed to get more from Tierney. And I'm hoping if you guys are watching the watch along with Hugh today, and I was talking about when he's playing that left-footed pass out through to the kind of left channel and playing in Kieran Tierney, it's so needed. Like, it's so necessary to have Granit Xhaka playing that ball in behind for Tierney to play through. And then, of course, the second goal all comes from that pass from Granit Xhaka, playing that ball in between the past defensive lines and getting on the end of it. Just fantastic. Really, really good to see Granit Xhaka get a lot of the credit that he deserves. And I know he can be incredibly frustrating, but since he's come back from his suspension, he's looked really good. And that's good because we've got the likes of Thomas Partey and Gabriel to come back against Crystal Palace. And hopefully they are going to be back for that game. Fingers crossed they will be. There was a bit of bad news that we need to talk about, and that was Martinelli in the warm-up was injured. His ankle was injured. We will, of course, have to wait and hear from Mikel Arteta about Martinelli's injury, and that news will, I'm sure, come through, and you guys will be keeping me up to date in the chat box if any news does drop as we're doing the live show. But that for me was just sorry, Kenny. Willian emoji, please. No, there's never going to be. Granit Xhaka we're talking about. And members, be free, absolutely spam that chat with those Xhaka emojis. Spam that chat. Fill it with those Xhaka emoji, guys, because he was awesome when he came onto the pitch. His passing was great. His passing was perfect. And we got what we needed from him. We really did. Thank you, Wilson. Much appreciate. 4 wins in a row and Arsenal are in great form right now. Mark says, guys, tell me, was Nelson terrible? Because I was in a chat and there was a lot of hate towards him. I wouldn't say hate's the right word to use, but I was very critical when I was watching the game with Hugh earlier. I used as a 3. Nelson, Willock, and Nketiah are just done for me. I just see them as sellable assets right now. That's all they are. The players that Arsenal can sell. Nelson is just not, for me, a player that is going to go anywhere with Arsenal. He's just, I don't feel at risk saying that, being clipped. I don't at the moment because he's not showing me anything that makes me think, yeah, he's got a future. You look at Smith-Rowe. Look at Smith-Rowe and Saka and Gabriel. You look at the two. I mean, there's 2 groups of 3, isn't there? You've got Nketiah, Willock, and Nelson, and then you got Smith-Rowe, Martinelli, and Saka. The difference between those 2 groups of players, you know what the ironic thing, the average age of Saka, Smith-Rowe, and Martinelli is less than that of Willock, Nketiah, and Nelson. So it's really kind of, in my mind, it's just the 3 players that we just need to move on from. We just need to move on from them. We need to get as much money as we can because we've got other young players coming through the ranks that we need to be given opportunities to. You can't just bank all your money on these guys that are not performing. We need to give other players opportunities to come through. The squad needs to be thinned, as we know already. I get that they're homegrown players and they will count towards that quota, but they're young players, so we need to be signing more experienced English players anyway to count towards it. But it's just, for me, a problem that these guys have had too much investment put into them for too long. And it's only, if anything, their value is diminishing. The value is going down because they're not performing well and they're not looking like they would make a difference if they were to play. So it doesn't make it, it just doesn't, it's a really frustrating thing. The Brotherhood says, Tom, what group do you think Balogun would have been part of? It's a hard question because we don't know enough about Balogun, really. He wasn't on the bench today, which I think tells you everything you need to know about his situation. If he was on the bench today, I think maybe we had more of a chance of seeing Balogun stay around at Arsenal, but he wasn't even in the squad. I think we know what that means. I think that pretty much means he's off, he's gone, he's going Germany maybe. It's a shame, but I'm not going to lose sleep over it. I'm not going to lose sleep over it. It's pointless. It's pointless losing sleep over this sort of thing. Nelson was just injured, says Rydog. He was just injured, but he hasn't convinced me in any of the performances that I'm seeing from him. He just has not convinced me at all. Pedro de Galez, thank you ever so much for signing up as a member. You absolute legend. Welcome to the TGT gang and the TGT gang, TGT squads. I don't know what guys. I don't know. We actually have a name for you guys. Just the TGT squad. If you've joined up as an expert member, make sure you join our Discord server and get access to all the exclusive content as well. And now, Pedro, you can use your own flying fish emoji. So enjoy that. Absolutely enjoy that, sir. Como Lee Ray says, if Partey and Xhaka try not to out-alpha each other, that could be quite a quality centre midfield partnership, which we can base our team around with Emile Smith-Rowe and Saka, the creative energy further forward. It's a good point. I think it's a partnership that needs time. It's a partnership that needs that opportunity to kind of gel and get together and work. But when it does come together, Partey and Xhaka, it's going to be really kind of intriguing, not interesting, to see how things progress with those two. TGT squad. We're going to go with TGT squad. I think Balaji has coined the phrase. Daniel, the TGT flying fish squad is what it is. You're part of the flying fish crew. Flying fish. Can't say those words. TGT members are known as Tommy Laporte's flying fish, says Carnage. Dubia says, Tom, what did I tell you from the first collaboration with Wizzy? You can't stop, fella. I know, it's just can't stop. But that's 4 appearances, 4 wins. There will come a time where we will lose. Like, it eventually will happen. We will lose a game. That is going to happen. I pray I'm still allowed on after that happens. But it will happen one day, because you can't win forever. You could, but it's highly, almost impossibly unlikely. So just don't hate me when that happens, okay? Just don't. I've brought the luck back, I feel. TGT flying fish and chips, says Nico. This is getting weird. This is getting very strange. Greg Beeler says, Willock and Nketiah and Nelson should be sold. They just don't show enough. They need to make room for the youth that are coming through. Timo Pes says, we will never lose. Never, says Texas. David Keefe says, Emile Smith-Rowe was simply brilliant. Again, comes onto the pitch, provides the energy. The finish was so sumptuous. What a word that is to use. Smith-Rowe is sumptuous in his play. Absolutely brilliant from him again. He is just necessary. He is just... Oh, are you... Sorry, Pedro. Cheers, Tom. Oh, and by the way, I'm not Spanish. I'm Welsh. That's me being lazy and just assuming you are. That's really... Pedro de Gales. I mean, that doesn't sound particularly Welsh. Is there heritage? Educate me, Pedro. Educate me. Calvin Cloette says, hi, Tom. Do you think Gabriel comes straight back into the team over Marie? I think Marie had a very mixed kind of game today. Defensively, looked quite good. Like, he defended quite well, got into with some good tackles. But I just think that his distribution is a little bit questionable. But in saying that, Gabriel's distribution is a bit questionable. I think Gabriel will come back in against Crystal Palace. And ultimately, that's a big thing. Yes, John P. Massive props to you for bringing this up. Leno, what a save. What a save from Andy Carroll. This goalkeeper can do nothing for a whole 60, 70, 80 minutes. And then when he gets called upon, he's the difference. He's the absolute difference. And that is so, so necessary for us right now to have Leno. And it makes me just worry that much more. If he's gone, does Runnison save that chance? Obviously, I'm not going to speculate and say that he would or wouldn't, but you're filled with worry that he might not. So it's very difficult to not get worried about what happens if Leno isn't there. It was the right decision to play him. I'm really glad he didn't pick Runnison for this game. We need to be going through. We need to be... He went like a flying fish. I mean, Tebow, you've missed an opportunity there. What's annoying is that I don't think I'm allowed to put emojis. Can I put emojis in? I actually can. Yes, I can put them into the chat. Get those flying fish. Porky Porks says, Tom, what did I say? Any other keeper scares me. Don't need to hear Martinez mentioned again. Leno is the main man. He is, mate. 100%. 100%. I'm sure. Mr. Chixby says, we can get Dubravka. Yeah, let's go out and sign Newcastle's number 2 goalkeeper. David Key says, I think, Tom, I have given up on Nelson and Willock. They have had their chances. I agree with you. Mate. Ikene says, Tierney is so used up, tired, knackered that youth needs a huge amount of rest. I mean, he's played 120 minutes of football today, but that is very much in his repertoire to do that week in, week out. I think he'll recover. He'll be fine. He'll be there on Thursday against Crystal Palace. Noah says, much love, Tom. Thank you so much, Noah, for tuning in today. Daniel Schuldenfrei says, where's Nketiah disappeared to? didn't come off. We have 5 subs, didn't come on. I don't blame him. We had Lacazette. Right decision. You have to say that Arteta, whilst he felt he must have needed to rotate quite a lot of the first team 11 and give other players opportunities, but those substitutions were spot on. You have to say to Arteta, those substitutions were absolutely spot on. Tactically, the impact that they had, the timings that they were, he got it all spot on with the changes. The starting 11, I have a couple of kind of not issues necessarily around that, but I certainly have some questions in regards to kind of if some of those players should play. And when I say some of those players, I mean pretty much Willian. It's just why Willian is still being considered every single week. I have absolutely no idea. I will say, Fast Landboy 99, thank you so much for becoming a member. I know you joined up before the show today, but absolute legend. I'll make sure I leave another link to the Discord server in the community tab on our YouTube page. So make sure that you check out our fantastic crew of TGT Flying Fish squad. So there you go. Juan says, I almost cry of joy when he replaced Willian. If you were watching me and Hugh, there was genuinely a celebration when Willian went off, which I know sounds bad, but we were so desperate for him to just come off the pitch. So desperate. Drop a like on the video, says Dario G. If you could drop a like on the video, I'd really appreciate it. We could try and get up to 200 likes. That'd be really appreciated. Chris P says, disagree with you, Tom. Relson has had very few games. Players develop at different rates. Willock played better than Willian, in my opinion. I think he played better than Willian, but it wasn't really difficult to. And Ketia needs a run with him. Also throw Saka and Gabby. I'm not willing to, Chris. I'm not willing. I'd rather put more emphasis on some of the other players that are coming through. I'd rather give more time to Tyrese John-Jules next season because Balogun's going to be gone. I'd rather give more time to Nikolai Moller if we ever give him a chance, or Aziz coming through, or Kurjan coming through. I have no time for these kids anymore. Like Nelson and Willock and Nketiah, they've had their chance. They've not taken their chance, and they need to be sold. They need to be given. We need to basically get money in using those players. They are sellable assets. That's just how I view it. Colorado Gooner, Flying Fish. This is becoming a thing. Sam Trester says, can we have a Willian emoji that is just an old sock with a hole in it? Was that too harsh? Jesus Christ. Fapello says, Mainsley puts in a man of the match performance versus Everton. Now he gets dropped for Cedric. He is an English international now. That's a good point. Mainsley not being played over Cedric, Mainsley not being played at all, is something I didn't pick up on. So thank you, Fapello, for bringing that up. I am a little bit surprised. I am a little bit surprised. MT Juicy says, you want to do a Gnabry? I'm supposing that's referring to Nelson. What you can't do is just be so worried that every youngster you let go of is going to become some amazing player. Because I guarantee you, and we talked about this on the Let's Talk Arsenal show yesterday, for every single youngster that goes on and maybe succeeds somewhere, there are 2, 3, 4, 5, 10 other youngsters that just don't. And you can't always think that it's going to turn out that way. Nico says, how do you rate the ref? That much? 0. That's not okay, by the way. 0. Utterly embarrassing officiating. We should have had a penalty. How many of you thought that was a penalty? Was it Clark on Aubameyang? Like, he sticks his leg out like behind his left-hand heel and clips Aubameyang as he's been nutmegged. That was a clear penalty. Absolutely clear penalty. Tom is shining new toy syndrome. If anything, Rydog, I'm one of those people that is certainly not of that nature. So unlucky, son. But it was just a clear penalty for me. Absolutely clear penalty all day long. The Pello says clear penalty. Conclusion of the day says the squad selection from Arteta today can only be explained from my perspective that Arteta wanted to give the senior players a chance to pay him back the trust he's put in them. And it's fair to say that they let him down. Real Prince says Gnabry, Marlon, Benassa, Adelaide. The list is long. The list is not. Like, when you think about it, you've named me 4 players. After them, who is it we're looking at? You've said those 4, but I'll throw you back with the likes of Isaac Hayden, Benica Fobi, Javier Amici. Like, are we gonna do this? Because it's not a long list. They're just 4 examples of players that have gone on to do quite well. Marlon's still at PSV, Benassa's still at AC Milan. Adelaide, I mean, he's left Lyon now. I'm not sure you can even use Jeff anymore because he's gone off to, is it Rennes or Nice? It might be Nice. I think it might be Nice that he's gone off to, and he's not pulling up trees there at all. So I don't think Adelaide is at all is one you can use at this point whatsoever. VAR checked it and decided it was not a pen. If VAR did check it and thought it wasn't a pen, then it was so wrong. It was so wrong. It's clearly a penalty. Yep, definitely, but only in the replay. I'm not surprised he missed it. All I'm saying is I'm surprised that he didn't give the penalty. That's what's really frustrating. Let's try and get the likes up on the video, please, people. Much appreciate how much you support the channel, as always. Matthew Hudson's Pepe's shout for a pen was also justified. I don't know when that was. I don't know if that was when he was running down the right-hand side into the box and it was kind of clashed with the keeper and one of their defenders. I can't remember specifically. Zelalem is another name. Thomas Eisfeld, another name. Akpom, another name. How many names? Chris Willock. Like, all of these players have not gone on to do anything, and yet we've got PTSD around Gnabry just because Gnabry went off to do something. Marlon's still doing things at PSV, but I mean, is he proven at the top level yet? No. Mavadidi, yeah, we let him go to Charlton, then Juventus, and now I think he's playing in Montpellier. It's just, there's so many examples of players that haven't made it. You just can't, be like kind of based around this PTSD of these players that have gone on to do things, because there's so many more examples of players that just haven't. David Key says, Tom, would you sell Pepe? I mean, I think you mean Pepe. As I'm afraid he is inconsistent, in my opinion, and he wouldn't be in my first choice 11. Interesting. I'm inclined to say yes, but I don't know how much money you'd get for him. At this time, you look at West Ham. They signed Sebastian Haller for £45 million. They sold him for 20. If we sold Pepe for half the amount of money that we were able to buy him for, at the end of the day, you just turn around and say, you cut your losses, you say it's not worked out, and you move on. And yeah, it'll come up in conversation, but it's not too much of something that I would be that concerned about, to be honest. We had a super chat. Let me just find it very quickly. Sam Trester, thank you, absolute legend. Part of our TGT Flying Fish squad, says, speaking of supporting the channel, absolute legend, mate. Really appreciate your support as always. I saw another nice comment as well from Shinoy. Thank you ever so much for that. Keep up the good work, Tom. Sean says, Tom, do you think Eddie will be sold this January? I don't think he's going to go in January. I think he may go in the summer. I'll be very surprised if he went in January. I'll be happy. I think if we can get some good money for him, great. But I don't think we're going to see him sold. I'll be very, very lucky. Nico says, Pepe is so one-dimensional. You need 3D glasses to watch him play. MT Juicy says, if they don't get sufficient amount of games, how are they going to improve? 1 game out of 4, not enough. You say that, but then we complain about giving these guys opportunities. And when do you give them the opportunities? When do you play them? Because you can't afford to. Because we need to be playing Saka. We need to be playing Martinelli. We need to be giving other opportunities to other guys. Willock, I mean, how many games has Willock played? How many games has Nketiah played for Arsenal? If I just go on Joe Willock's profile here, he's played 39 games in the league for Arsenal, from the bench or from starting. If we look at Eddie Nketiah, how many games has Eddie Nketiah been given at Arsenal? Let's have a look. Blah, 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 blah. Eddie Nketiah has been given 33 league games. Like, I think that's enough. I think that's enough games to have a judgment on a player. And to turn around and say, yeah, that they've not taken those opportunities. You look at the one, the game against Everton, where Nketiah was given that faith to be the starting striker, and he was really poor, really, really poor. Let's try and have a look. Scroll down my Twitter if there's any updates on Martinelli just yet. Oh, apparently it's not good. I'm just saying it. Arteta says he is gutted. A Martinelli injury does not look good. That is not a good sign. So fingers crossed that it's just a case of it's an impact injury in that moment, but that is worrying. You hate those innocuous kind of injuries that happen, and maybe that might change how Arsenal approach the transfer window. I doubt it very, very much, but it's a really, really big shame if Martinelli is in fact out for a long period of time. We'll have to wait and see what he says in the post-match press conference. Sideways Bonobo says, had to come and give you love at halftime on the Hugh Wizzy stream. I heard you, mate. Thank you so much. You're absolute legend. Never watched anything of his before, and now check out his stuff. Some really, really good, passionate stuff about Arsenal. I hope you enjoy the watch-alongs. Drinks Gink says, Gnabry plays for us prior to sale wasn't as good as Nelson's playing now. And in any way, you can use that in two ways to say that you don't even know how good a player is ultimately going to be afterwards. So, Guna Matt says, how do you think Aubameyang played? I thought he was pretty out of it until we brought on more players like Smith-Rowe and Lacazette. He wasn't in the game at all. A lot of running again, but not really much application. Didn't really take too many chances. So yeah, I worry about him, but now he's got a goal. Maybe things will change. Chris P says, quite clearly an ankle twist, ligament damage if out for a while. What's the positive thing about an ankle injury is, of course, is that they're nowhere near as bad as knee injuries, and usually you'd hope that they're weeks rather than months. But still, it's a huge, huge shame. He's just come back from a long-term injury and he's already injured again. Matt G says, compare any of our young players with Martinelli. Even with a small number of games he's played, he smiles. He's ahead of Willock, Nelson and Eddie. I'm going to keep on checking the socials to see if there's any more information about Martinelli as we go through this, but it's a real big shame if he is, in fact, injured again. Cookie Monster says, we need another number 10. If Smith-Rowe gets injured, we are in trouble. I mean, you look at that red card. If that red card had stood, which it definitely shouldn't, it wasn't even a yellow. It was an utter joke of a decision. But if that red card had stood, we would have been out without him for 3 games. And thinking about Arsenal without Smith-Rowe in right now is a real kind of utter barren wilderness of lacking in chances. And we need Smith-Rowe. Desperately, desperately need him. Javi Gunner says, you're normally the voice of reason, Tom. However, I really disagree with you. Do you write off a player who had to scrapping for minutes, players who get a consistent run in a team and then shine? But other players have been given small opportunities here and there. Smith-Rowe was given a small opportunity in the League Cup against Manchester City. And in that small cameo against Man City, he was unbelievably good. And we've not seen any cameos of the same from Willock or from Eddie Nketiah against an opposition as good as Man City. I feel I'm being level-headed still. I don't feel like I'm being hyperbolic about this. I feel like there has been enough time and enough chances to make up a mind on those. You can disagree, and that's absolutely fine. I'm not going to turn around and say you're an idiot for a disopinion. It's just different to how I see it personally. Fujian says, why did Emil Smith-Rowe get a yellow card when the replay showed minimal contact? Scratched the shin pad at best. Why wasn't the Newcastle player booked for going down like he got studied? Yeah, it's just ridiculous. It's absolutely ridiculous. Akane says, Tom, do you know that any Arsenal something that sees Willian into her dreams will wake up crying? That's it, called a nightmare. I have never seen a unanimous rejection bigger than this. I mean, I haven't seen anyone be positive about Willian at all. The Brotherhood says, Tom, I've seen us linked to Patson Daka. I don't know much about him. Do you think he'd be a good signing? I do think he'd be a great signing. He's young, he's hungry, he's rapid, he's a good finisher most of the time. He's still got development to do. And he's physical for a player of his speed. He's got a bit of a hybrid, I suppose, between Aubameyang and Lacazette, which is quite a nice way to have it. And he might be available for a decent fee. So I'd be looking to do it 100%. Porky Pork says, I don't think there's scrapping for minutes. I think they've been given more than their fair chance. And I agree with you, Porky. I think you're spot on 100%. Sam Chester says, apparently Arteta has said Martinelli's injury doesn't look good. Yeah, I saw that as well, which is really, really, really worrying. I really hope that's not the case. Here we go. Martinelli, when I woke up, I felt it, but I was able to walk. I thought it was nothing at first, but it was a pain I'd never felt before. I went to the club for examinations and they said it was not good and I would need surgery. It broke me. I cried a lot. That was what he said about his knee injury. Obviously, this is an ankle injury, so it's slightly different. It's a real big shame. Hopefully the scan shows that it's not as bad. Sometimes these things come back and they're not as bad as what is first feared. But yeah, it's horrible. Obviously, he's just come back from this injury and he's a player that's really important to us. So really fingers crossed he can come back and yeah, is a lot quicker coming back than he was last time. He says Daka is like Aubameyang, prefer a link-up striker like Edouard. Now, Daka is not more lean towards Aubameyang. Daka can perform the link-up play. Red Bull Salzburg need their forwards to play with the link-up. They need to bring in the other players around them, and that's why Daka's still very good at that type of game. So I don't think that you can compare him outright anyway to what Aubameyang is. Sam Truster says, some of the names on here, amazing. Porky Pork, outrageously amusing. Cookie Monster says, Eddie is a finisher and Aubameyang is a better finisher. We aren't creating any chances, so he can't do what he's good at, although finishing seems to be the only thing he is good at. And I think that's the point, is that I want a young striker, if he's coming through, to make chances for himself. Aubameyang's made a living off the way that he plays, and he's really, really good at it. But when Eddie's got given chances, he has also not taken them. So I think that also comes into it as well. Shanoy says, when Emil Smith-Rowe, Saka and Martinelli got their chance, they all took it. This is the difference from hungry kids and overpaid players. Daniel says, I think people need to understand us selling Willock, Nketiah and Nelson isn't bad whatsoever. It's a hail-end success because they can make us a lot of money. Every young player won't make it at Arsenal. Exactly. You can't just cling on to these players and just pray that they're going to come good, because you've got more coming through the pipeline. And that's the problem we've got with Balogun, is that everyone's willing to sit down and say, yeah, we should keep Nelson, etc. We can hang on to these players because they don't want us to lose them. But then we get into situations like we have with Balogun, where you've got another young guy coming through, but you've put so much investment in the likes of Nketiah for so long that Balogun's never been given a chance. And then you moan about that. So there's a confliction of interests here, which just does not work. Anyway, that's going to come to the end of today's show. Thank you so much for tuning in, people. If you could drop a like on the video, I'd really appreciate it. Well, I'll be back tomorrow for the podcast. Let me tell you who's coming on the podcast tomorrow evening at 8:30. As always, all of our podcasts after league games are on the day after at 8:30. After Newcastle, tomorrow it's Lee Judges, Ola and Mike will be on the show at 8:30 tomorrow evening. So make sure you tune in to hear the guys chatting about the game today and looking ahead to the Crystal Palace match on Thursday. And on Friday's show, which is the podcast after the Palace game, Mike, Andy and Owen is going to be back for a very, very casual, light-hearted, amusing, eyes rolling back to the head, face palming type of show. If you would like to, just members, fill the chat box. This is going to become the norm now. This is tradition. This is what we do. You need to fill those chat boxes with, as Pedro has done there, the flying fish. So thank you so much, people, for tuning in. You've been absolute legends, as always. Make sure you tune in tomorrow for the podcast. I'll see you again very, very soon. And as always, up the Arsenal.